Hello and welcome back to Down the Track. We're approaching the all-important World Test Championship final between New Zealand and India, just a few days away now. So we thought in this episode we'll do the ideal 11s for both teams. It's going to be a bit of a difficult thing because I'm sure the teams are also planning. There's plenty of options for both sides. They have to take into consideration Southampton, the pitch, and everything like that. There's a forecast for a bit of rain as well. We'll get to know more about it in the upcoming days. But I have with me my co-host Abrar Aziz. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to this. I really hope there's no rain. I mean, that's the only downer that these 5 days will probably come through with. But let's see how it goes. I'm looking forward to this game.
Yeah, I mean, there's one reserve day to make up for any like loss, but yeah, I hope it is clear for those 5 days. You never know with England weather, right? It can
Yeah,
show something else and be something else on that day. But yeah, from the ideal 11, let's start off. Let's go with New Zealand first, and then India. You're comfortable with that? Who you think is going to play, the combinations you're looking at, and basically, yeah, let's just run through the team.
absolutely. I mean, it's the New Zealand team for me is harder, as we discussed just before this call as well. It's a lot harder for me to pick up my 11, but I have a couple of surprises. Let's see how it goes.
All right, let's go. So, who are your opening batsmen?
The first six are not a problem. I think I have Latham and Conway to go in. I mean, both of them good looking in good form. Conway, especially, looking absolutely fantastic right now. So no issues over there. Number three, if it works for Kane, I mean, if he's back, I believe he is. So he should be taking that number three spot quite comfortably over there. And number four, we have Ross. At number five, I have Henry Nichols. At number six, last test match would be Jay Watling. And now here's where I have the problem.
This is the
Initially,
issue.
initially at number seven, I put Colin de Grandhomme. I put Santner at eight, Wagner at nine, Southey at 10, and Bolt at 11. And then you reminded me that Jameson is out, and I was shocked at myself for getting Jameson. But I find it really hard to put Jameson in this team, unfortunately. Unless you want to go in with him in place of Wagner or Southey, I don't know. I don't think that they'll do that, or Bolt as well. But I don't think that they'll do that. The only option they have is play Santner at seven and bring in Jameson at eight, because Jameson can pitch in with the bat a little bit. But I think that
As
that
India
might
saw in
become
the last tour to New Zealand.
correct. But I think that might just make the batting a little bit weaker. But I really need Jameson. Just imagine four fast bowlers and a good spinner in Santner, and and Jameson can provide a little bit with the bat. So I think as we've been thinking about it and as we've been discussing, I think I'd go Santner at seven, Jameson at eight, Wagner at nine, Southey at 10, and Bolt at 11.
Yeah, that's very
That is
interesting.
my ideal. Yeah.
I would agree with you there, even though, like, it's debatable. People will say, you need to play an extra batsman because English
Yeah.
conditions.
Yeah.
But I agree with you there because I also feel that, the tail can wag and you need your top six to perform. I believe that in international cricket, you need your top six to perform. Of
Yep.
course, number seven can play a role. But the thing is also de Grandhomme with him, it's tricky to leave him out because he provides with the ball. That's the only issue, like, which is a big thing because I think he can do the job. Will these four fast bowlers, I mean, it looks amazing, but that combination also needs to be there. Maybe get somebody who just pulls some medium pace, dibbly dobbly in England. It could help, right? So you have more
Absolutely.
variety that way. But that's the only counter argument to that. I'm sure people will have more arguments, but I kind of agree with you there. Go for the kill, and I think the tail can wag. Wagner is probably the best number 11 I've seen. I think some commentators said that as well in the
Yeah.
last test match,
Yeah.
that he was playing beautiful shots and he made like
Absolutely.
20-30 at number 11. So he can get pushed up to 9, I feel. And Jameson is handy with the bat, Santner as well. So yeah, I agree with you there. It'll be interesting. De
If
Grandhomme just brings you a different kind of proposition with the ball as well.
if you had to go with the random, who of those four fast bowlers do you leave out?
That's you want. I don't want to answer that question, but yeah, I would. It's very tough. The thing is, I would.
Luckily for us, we don't have to make that decision. We just
Yeah,
have to analyze it.
the thing is maybe Wagner because he's played two tests back to back, and I
But
think
Wagner brings a little bit of that extra, like that
yeah.
left arm, and
The only
he's like hit the deck kind of
I
bowler.
would have said Jameson because I honestly felt Jameson struggled a bit at Lords, but they rested him, so I don't think they're going to drop him, right? That's the only thing. It's one of those two, I think, but yeah, it's very difficult. I'm not going to make that call. That's why I agree with your team. It's very difficult that way. But yeah, it looks like a stacked team. I mean, from number 1 to number 11 looks very good. Let's move on to the Indian lineup.
Oh, this one was a little bit easier, but I have a little bit of a surprise here as well, and we discussed this as well. So it started off with Rohit, Gill, Puji, Virat, Ajinkya. These are top five, and then Pant at six. No discussion over there. What I have at seven is Jaddu at seven, Ash at eight, Ishan Bumrah and Shami to finish it off. Of course, there's a possibility to play Vihari at six and then play Pant at seven and go in with only four bowlers. But we've seen in the past that when we have one less bowler, we tend to struggle especially with the tail and the fast bowlers being a little tired. With Jaddu and Ash, even though it's a spin option and maybe in England spin's not that important, but these guys are smart, crafty bowlers, so they can make something out of nothing. And they, for more importantly, they give the three fast quicks a little bit of time to relax when needed, and they can just bowl 8-10 overs. The quicks are fresh, and then they bowl the first 20-30 odd, and then they can come back in the last half of the thing where when it starts reversing, especially Ishant and Shami. When it starts reversing, those guys can really be very lethal with the ball. So I need that extra bowler. Vihari is a good backup bowler option, but he doesn't bowl that much. But Jaddu, his batting has improved leaps and bounds over the past couple of years, and he gives you a lot more with the ball. It's a little bit of a risk, similar to the situation with New Zealand, although in very different variances, but a similar situation. I just feel like Jaddu will be good enough at then number seven, because similar to how we talked about New Zealand, at Jaddu and Ash, both can chip in with the bat, So it becomes a little bit of a number seven situation over there with both of them trying to chip in with the bat, and then you have these three quicks coming in and taking care of business. So that is the way I ideally go with it. Unless you want to go, the biggest problem over here is when you say Colin de Grandhomme, you have a all-rounder over there, and here you're going with little bit of a more bowling all-rounder in Jaddu. So you want to leave Jaddu and play Vihari, I'd be okay with that, but I'd like to go with this kind of a situation where you have that extra bowler and someone who like Jaddu who can actually always chip in with the bat as well.
I think Jadeja can be played as a batsman. You might not even use him with the ball in this game. You can 1 or 2 overs. Of course, he can bowl 20 overs as well. But I think you can play him as a batsman. The only thing is Vihari. I think after that, the last innings against Australia, he's shown he's a warrior, proper test batsman. But I think I would go with Jadeja just because I think with the bat he can provide. He's shown in Australia as well. He needs to be fully fit though. He needs to be fully fit. And then if there's a concussion or whatever, then you always have Vihari as a backup. But I think it's a tough call for Vihari. He's done nothing wrong.
Exactly.
But just on Jadeja's superiority, he does provide with the ball. But I'm looking at him as a batsman. I think he can give you 50, 60 runs. It's just that swinging conditions, all Indian batsmen do tend to struggle. But I think lower order of Jadeja, and he bats a bit more aggressively than Vihari. I feel in England, that's something England did wrong in that last series. I think you need to get runs at a bit quicker pace, because if you play that proper Pujara kind of innings, it might come back to haunt you, because your ball can be your wicket can be taken on any ball. It won't get easier to bat on. The ball will swing throughout the innings. So that's why I feel Jadeja can get you those quick runs. I think Jadeja and Rishabh Pant will be very important in this lineup. So I agree with you there. One question: you're dropping Mohammad Siraj. You don't see his place in this lineup?
I mean, it's so unfortunate. Again, one of the other things where I really want Siraj, because he's been phenomenal over the past few months, right? But the problem is that Ishan, Bumrah, and Shami, how are you going to go against that? It's like so difficult for me to bring him in, because Ishant is an absolute legend. Shami is coming back from an injury, so maybe if Shami is not 100% fit, of course Siraj can take his place. But I just feel like Shami is that kind of a bowler that on his day he brings in 3-4 quick wickets and really turns the game in your favor. When I feel like, especially second innings Shami, when we really want a few wickets in when we are kind of desperate, I feel like Shami is the go-to guy, and then Bumrah is Bumrah, so it's very hard for me, although I'd love to see Siraj in. I just can't fit him in amongst these three, because these three are the tried and tested, more experienced guys, and this is the World Test Championship on the line. You want to go with your top players. So
yeah, I agree. I think that's what they will probably do, because experience as well. There will be nerves, and I feel these guys have been, they've been playing together as a trio for a long time. The only concern I have is injury. I feel that Siraj is more fitter right now.
Absolutely.
And he's in form, but that's the thing, right? If these guys are fully fit, then that's your trio, your experienced trio, and they all give you a different variety. So I think a really good lineup. It's very interesting that you went with 4 fast bowlers for New Zealand and 3 for India, and I think that's just because of the availability than nothing else. And Hardik Pandya has got bowling, so he's not in the squad.
I'd love for Siraj to be the 4th fast bowler, but how are you going to play Ash at 7? I don't think Ash at 7 is still acceptable. Ash at 8 is still fine.
Jaddu at 7 you will never do because you'll never drop Ashwin.
Jaddu at 8, for me personally, I think that there's no test team without an Ashwin, because Ashwin,
I agree.
Yeah, because he just can get something out of
World Cup final for him. If he gets dropped, he's gonna lose it. But I think that's a solid team. I think because of the availability of the teams, like what they have at their disposal. According to that, you've made your team, and there are weaknesses and strengths. We'll go dive into that later on during this week. But I think for now, that's really great. 2 ideal 11s. Of course, you could go either way. You could switch it around, go with that extra batsman. But you've gone more with bowling heavy, and I like that. I feel that Test match you need to get those wickets, and I think that pretty much wraps it up. Any last things you want to add?
No, I'm looking forward to this game. I mean, I like you said, a little bit bowling heavy, just because they're 90 overs in a day. You want to give about 8-10 overs to a bowler, to the 5th bowler, so that everyone else can bowl about 20 overs.
That's very important. That's one thing I noticed in the last Test series, that you need a spinner there, at least one spinner, just to give your fast bowlers a break. Because even if they're bowling 2 at a time, 2 fast bowlers at a time, they don't have that energy to bowl at that level. So one spinner can hold things up. Of course, 2 makes it even like more. You get more rest, but I think one spinner in foreign conditions is ideal.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I think bowling more than 20 overs in a day just makes it extremely difficult for anybody. Even if the prime of their health and prime of their career, bowling more than 20 overs, it just gets a little bit too taxing on the player. And if you have to do it for 2 or 3 days, it just becomes too much. So 80 overs amongst 4 bowlers, and then 10 overs for the Jaddu or something like that. That's the way I'd go with. And let's see how it goes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that wraps it up. Ideal 11s. Thank you so much for joining us, and stay tuned for the latest content. We'll discuss the strengths and weaknesses for both sides. We'll go more into this and preview this in more detail, and then we'll have one full preview just before the game as well.
Looking forward to it, man.
Take care, man.